Hello to you. I'm Jessie Johnson. I will be speaking to you today about black culture, white culture. What is racism, white racism? Over decades and centuries of time, the meanings to a word or words can change in a language. This has happened to one specific word among the peoples of what's now called the USA. There are two primary cultures in the United States of America. The first is a primary culture and the second is a primary subculture. A primary culture is a culture that has enough institutions and social elements in its structure that it can survive without the need or use of any other internal culture or external culture, or to go outside to other cultures to get social elements to help it survive. The first primary culture in the United States of America is white culture, European American culture. Those peoples whose ancestors came here freely a little bit over 500 years ago, mainly from the political boundary of Europe. Europe is not a continent. It is a political boundary. A continent is a very large land mass surrounded by at least 98% water, of which Europe is not. The second primary culture is a primary subculture. The primary subculture in the United States, which is black culture, African American culture, the peoples of the ancestry from the continent of Africa. Disrespectful comments showing lack of understanding will be removed. Only three groups of people did not immigrate to what's now called the United States of America. One, the native indigenous people of this land have been here for no less than 15,000 years to the present day. Two, Mexicans, also indigenous, generally speaking, been here for several thousands of years. Number three, black peoples of African ancestral descent, or African Americans. They were forced to come here at gunpoint by mainly Europeans, mainly in the form of the white man, to work as slaves. These people, black people that is, physically built what is now the United States of America in the beginning, but are and have been totally denied the right to the fruits of their own building of this country. Their country, up to the present day, by the white racist system of the United States, which has socially stigmatized them by practicing racism. Racism is a practice. Please share this video. White people have practiced racism against blacks for over 250 years. It is in all 50 states at present. It is a national white cultural platform. Blacks have never practiced racism against the whites for 0 years. White culture is racist by default. Black culture is anti-racist by default. In the United States of America, a question for whites: what gives you whites more right than other 100% Americans to privileges and power when you're both 100% Americans? Are you white people more born here than other people or others are born here? Whites teach their children to be racist, subtle and gross, written and unwritten, from childhood to adulthood against others. And whites believe strongly that they are the only race that has a right to even exist and be called American, to protect their racist privileges and racist power against others, 100% Americans. Blacks never teach their children racism. Blacks are extremely angry, not racist. Whites have nothing to be angry about, but they are racist. They are the oppressor. This is where the mistake lies. Anger is not racism. Blacks are angry against white racism, oppression, culture as a whole, used against them every single day for over 250 years to the present. Any disrespectful comments will be removed. Coming up is the meaning of the word that blacks use, black culture that is, and the N word, that white culture that whites use. Two absolutely, totally different things. Black culture, or black people in general, never use the N-word toward each other. Never. Black people aren't white, and they don't ever want to be white. Whites, the white race in general in the United States, have proven themselves in general. Not all whites are racist and anti-human. Once again, not all whites are racist and anti-human, and have proven themselves in general for over 250 years of time, from continuous, unbroken anti-human behavior to be socially inferior as a culture. It is an anti-American culture. Whites in general have done more harm, hurt, and destruction against other 100% Americans than all other people on earth combined, multiplied by 100. Genocide against the native 100% Americans. Racism is not the whole part, but part of the whole. But it is a major part of the whole. Racism is one of the foundational platforms of European American culture in all and every one of the 12 universal institutions of humans, just as oil is a platform of the United States economy. Remove it and it falls apart. Only white culture uses the N-word. Black culture never uses this word. Black culture is adamantly and vehemently anti-racist and immovable anti-racist by default. Will never accept racism of any form because of it being used against them by whites nationwide and for over 250 years to the present day. Please share this video. In the process of over 200 years, black culture have changed. Bit by bit, the spelling, the definition, and meaning of the N-word from being the N-word. It is not spelled the same, with totally different meanings, totally different understandings than as white racist culture has it. In other words, it is no longer the N-word for blacks, but only for whites. Blacks have no N-word, only whites. Whites have not changed their original definitions and meanings of the N-word, and have done everything they can to make it seem that whites and blacks are using the same word. They are not. Whites, European American culture that is, for over 250 years have done everything to suppress, steal from, destroy, and wipe out black culture. Many whites are oblivious to what they have done to blacks while being in power, laughing and thinking they'll simply walk away from all of this. The law of karma, that's K-A-R-M-A, the law of karma, a natural law of life, does not allow this. Not all white persons are racist. Some whites, about 15% to 20%, are anti-racist. A small percent of that 15 to 20% is extreme anti-racist, considering racism to be a stain and insult on their pure white race to be washed away. Our species is not composed of races biologically. Race is non-biological. It does not exist in our kind. There are only surface differences in us, but not race. Race is a social invention, just like Santa Claus. When you use the term race as a social invention, that is, race is a social invention. When you use the term race to identify others, then the potential for misuse and abuse is very high. Using race to identify others is never positive. It is divisive. Racism is practiced and enforced. The mass majority of whites, European Americans, are in denial that they have ever did any wrong to anyone. Even against blacks, black 100% Americans, even against native 100% Americans, even against Chinese 100% Americans, even against Mexican 100% Americans, even while in the present moment process of doing it. Racism has been practiced for whites with extreme determination for over 300 years, of which they, whites that is, commit no less than 100 million acts of racism, subtle and gross, written and unwritten, mental and physical, against black people alone, who are 100% Americans, doing it every single day, nationwide, in all 50 states combined. White culture is racist by default, even though there's a small percentage of whites, about 15%, that will not, absolutely will not accept racism and will immovably stand with blacks and other non-whites adamantly against white racist culture, white racist and white racism nationwide and everything it stands for. For those who don't understand, racism is a social method among several major political economic methods used to oppress a people and socially stigmatize them. Racism is a practice. In the beginning, European Americans, white Americans, used the N-word toward those of African descent who are 100% Americans at that time and today, who themselves were born right here, just as whites were born right here. Hence, 100% equal Americans. Hence, white 100% Americans creating against American systems, against 100% Americans to oppress 100% Americans to protect and keep their privileges and powers. Whites at this moment are in power, mainly in the form of the white man. No matter what group of people have power, it never lasts forever. The recorded past of thousands of years proves this. Any disrespectful remarks or comments not showing understanding of the oppression or genocide of these peoples or others by whites, European Americans, those comments will be removed. Whites have committed from genocide against native, indigenous 100% Americans to enslaving African 100% Americans, and in the past, near slavery of Chinese 100% Americans by European Americans, all born here, 100% Americans, for over 250 years, every single hour of every year to the present. The N-word is from white culture and not black culture, even though whites try to make it seem so. And white culture is not black culture. Black culture uses a word that's spelled N-E-G-A, that's singular, and N-E-G-A-S, that's plural. This is pronounced nigger. Nigger is as in leg, beg, neg, peg, etc. If you have intelligence and understanding, then you will grasp what I mean by this. The word nigger from black culture means community building, friend, friendship, homeboy, homegirl, companion, comrade, fellow human, our term of endearment, our community, my people, family. You're all, excuse me. The word nigger also means you're always welcome. All races are accepted and acceptable here. There's only one race, the human race. The word nigger also means anti-racist, anti-racism, humanitarian, humanist. All human rights are given here by us. No form of slavery is accepted here. Anti-oppressor, etc. The black culture word nigger is overwhelmingly a socially positive term. White culture, on the other hand, with their N-word, do not mean this, and the word nigger is not in their white culture. They do not use the word nigger, but uses the N word. This word is spelled N-I-G-G-E-R with an I, an R, and two G's. And because it is spelled with two G's, it is pronounced with a long sounding G. It is pronounced nigger. Nigger, as in nig, as in jig, big, hig, sig, as in cigarette. Unlike nigger, which has no I, no R, and no two G's in it. The N word is solely of the total white culture, which includes the greatest number of hate groups based on racism. White racist, white nationalist, white suprematist of every kind. Over 1,000 different types of named groups that are monitored. Any disrespectful comments showing lack of understanding of the oppression of a people in any form will be removed. The N word is one of the most socially negative words in English, even though it is used toward blacks in the U.S., the United States that is, it is implied against all non-whites and all non-white 100% Americans, and has the same meanings toward them. The meaning of the word, the N word, is, number one, I will wipe out the past record of your people's contribution to the building of this nation and country, and it will never be mentioned in our schools or anywhere else. Another one, everything negative in the U.S., I will show them only your black face and never show whites, who are the real background reasons of who is against 100% Americans in the United States. That's racism. Please go to part 2, and we will pick up from there, and that's where we will meet. Thank you for listening, and we will catch each other in part 2. Have a good day.